Hi there. Welcome to Rome Business Radio. I'm Roger Manus, broadcasting from the Rome News Tribune in downtown Rome, Georgia. Let me get comfortable here in front of my microphone. I'm actually wearing a boot on my left ankle because I may have to have some surgery, so I got to spin my chair around. But good afternoon, everybody. We are joined by Severo Avila, the features editor here at the Rome News Tribune, and Nicole Popham of Legacy Properties. How's everybody doing? Thanks for joining us.
We're doing great.
Great. How are you?
We just met, but now we're best friends. Within the last 4 seconds,
Yes.
we've become BFFs.
We have.
And so we're having a great morning.
Well, and I want to let our listeners know that just before we started the podcast, I was asked about a bleep button because perhaps foul language was anticipated. And I said, well, we don't have one. And y'all worked out a bit where you could say.
Here's my thing. I got a potty mouth, and I'm going to apologize right now for anybody who's listening. But we worked out a great little system, and Nicole is really on point with this. So in case I get fired up and I start talking and I say, "You son of a beep," that's it.
We're on it. We're on it.
Yeah, so the FCC, the NCAA, the NAACP, no one's going to come after us.
Perhaps we should just try to stay family friendly and avoid the bleeps altogether. Anyway, we're here to celebrate business. That's what Business Radio is about. Rome Business Radio and the Business RadioX brand. So it's interesting. Your backgrounds are you're real estate, Nicole, and
Yes.
of course you're a columnist here at the paper as features editor. So let's start, since your business is basic business. How is the real estate game going here in Rome and Northwest Georgia right now, Nicole? Is everything great?
Everything is great. I mean, we're still in a seller's market like we have been, the past few years. So when I have clients, I set the expectations when we have a listing. I'm like, priced right, we could sell quickly. And then if I have buyers, I'm like, I'm not pushy, but if it's the right one, we're going to have to move fast.
Right.
So,
I guess that's good and bad. Depending
it
on
is good and bad. Like I like it for my sellers, but then my buyers, it's just, we have to move a little quicker than, it's not this whole like on TV where we're going here, here, and here, and we have time to think about it. And, we have to move pretty quick if it's the one.
Well, let me see if I can generate some business for you. Severo, do you need to buy or sell a house right now?
I need to buy one, but I will also need the money to purchase said house.
I feel you.
So if you do a loan and then the house, I'm
Right.
there.
Okay.
I'm right there.
All
I'll
right, there we
sign.
go.
So what is your background, Nicole? I think it was property management first.
Yes, property management. I did that before real estate, and then I got my license in 2016, and then 2019 I obtained my broker's license.
So relatively new to this side of it. Is it more challenging than you thought? Is it more fun? What is it?
I mean, we open our new office, and we have a small office. There's 5 of us in there, and we also offer property management in our office.
Okay.
Alan does that. We have a good group, and it is fun. With it being small, we can bounce ideas off each other. 2 of them were former appraisers. So if,
great.
It works out perfect. So if anything were to come up with pricing or anything like that, just pull them to the side and ask what's going on and figure it out.
Severo, what is your background? How does one get to become a features columnist?
Well, first of all, before we go any further, I want the listening audience to know this. Let me just ask you a quick question, Nicole. How far in advance were you alerted that you would be on this podcast? When were you asked?
I feel like I should lie because you're kind of angry.
No. I need you to be 100% honest.
Jennifer, I think it was like a week ago. I think it was a week ago. It was last week. Yes,
That's
maybe.
enough
Maybe
time.
6 days. 5 days.
5 days. Okay.
Okay.
I got about 15 minutes, and I was somewhere else. I was not even in the building, and I
Right.
got a message from Jennifer, and it said, "Get your
Beep.
over here right now because we need somebody." And
you got
that's
here
why
real
I'm
quick,
here.
too.
So I know where I am on the ladder, on the hierarchy here, because the janitor at Ross Dress for Less said no.
Right.
So y'all called me, and so that's why I'm here. So just so everybody knows, I know nothing about Rome business, but they asked me to jump in, so I'm here.
Well, just so everybody listening knows, I don't book the guests, so you weren't throwing me under the bus.
Okay.
You were throwing Jennifer under the bus.
She went under the bus.
From the Rome News sales team.
Yes.
Thank
Sorry.
Thank you for joining us.
Back to your question. So I'm a journalist. I'm a writer, but to start out with, I started out in features, which is not your, when we say features here at the paper and other papers, people might know of the news stories like wrecks and fires, and we call that kind of hard news, like the crime and stuff like that. Well, I do more of the human interest stories. So if you came to me and you said, my granny just turned 104 years old and she's got a pack of kangaroos in her backyard and she raises them, that's kind of the story that I would do. The more interesting, the more unusual stories.
Has that happened?
We've had, close. We've had people call us and tell us that their kids have been abducted by aliens, and we get a wide range of calls. Well, but that's kind of the stuff that I do.
I do encourage people out there. Of course, your work is online at Rome News Tribune.
Mm-hmm. rn-t.com.
Yeah, everywhere out there in the World Wide Web where this can be listened to if anybody stumbles across it. Tell me about Rome Fancy.
So Rome Fancy is it's this weird thing that I came up with. This was several months ago where, my friends and I were talking and they started mentioning things that, are out of my, I'm going to say, social class. Like, I know where I live in Celanese. If those people who know Rome, Celanese is a little mill village. It's these tiny little brick houses, very cute little neighborhood, but not fancy at all. And so they were saying things that I just couldn't relate to. They would say things like, oh, well, the girl that does my facials says that blah, blah, blah. Or my masseuse says that you shouldn't do that. And the whole time I was thinking, that's something I would never say. Like, you're Rome Fancy if you start off a sentence with my masseuse says.
Yes.
So, so then that started the idea for a column. So the first column is where I listed all these things that if they apply to you, or if most of them apply to you, you're Rome Fancy. Like, let's say you bank at different banks. I can barely maintain one bank account at one bank. They're calling me right now, trying to get me in there. And so I can't understand people who have several different accounts at different banks.
It's too much to keep up with.
That's Rome Fancy.
That
you know
is.
This is the exact opposite of you might be a redneck.
Exactly. And so, but then the funny thing is it's also kind of ridiculing it because it's Rome Fancy isn't like Atlanta or Buckhead Fancy. That's a whole different level.
Right.
Right. So it's like if you, have rental property in Celanese, you're Rome Fancy. But if like me, if you just live there, you're not Rome Fancy. Yeah. So it started out with that.
You're just Rome?
Yes, you're just Rome. I'm just Rome. And that springboarded, that got so much attention on social media. And it's funny because even though I was sort of making fun of it, people were claiming it. They're like, oh, I go to First Baptist Church. That means I'm Rome Fancy. Or if you're a member of the Rome Rotary Club. I mean, if you're a member Rotary, you're fancy.
It's completely arbitrary based on your worldview, it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. It's absolutely my opinions. So that caught on so well that I did a second one where people would get points for having, and if you have a certain amount of points, you're Rome Fancy. So that kind of springboarded into a little brand that I came up with. So I have like Rome Fancy hats and koozies and stuff. And people have embraced it. And it feels so good that people have taken something that was just a stupid idea of mine. It's ridiculous. It obviously doesn't carry any weight, but people love to either call their friends Rome Fancy or people claim that they're Rome Fancy. They love to claim it. So,
well, it's great content. It's very entertaining to read your stuff. And not just that, but, so Nicole, I would assume that you'll sell and buy houses Rome Fancy or not, right?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
matter if it's a $2,000 property that I probably wouldn't walk in because the floors are flowing. It's fine. That's fine. Or it can go up to $5 million. It doesn't matter everywhere.
So Rome Fancy, you don't care. Let's buy and sell houses.
No, anything.
So let's get down to some nuts and bolts for people who may be listening. Just for people who may not have bought a home before. What's the process?
So buyer-wise, the first step is getting pre-approved with the lender. And we work with multiple lenders so that way you can shop around.
Multiple banks.
Yes.
Because unlike Severo, who only does business apparently at one bank, one account, one time.
And they barely want to do business with me. Let me tell you.
Me too. It's okay.
So get your loan.
Yes, get your loan because most of the time when we find a house, they need the pre-approval letter anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And really with that being the first step, we need to know how much home you can afford and what type of loan you're getting. Because if you don't do that and I just show you a house and you haven't been pre-approved, well, what if later on you do and you can't afford it?
You're right. So that's why you would encourage, that's why our buyer, you just can't go randomly show houses.
You just can't walk in there without having that done. And most people don't understand also is that not all houses qualify for all types of loans. Certain houses go with certain types of loans and we know what area to be looking in.
let's flip it. What's it like for a seller?
For a seller, what we would do is pre-listing. So that's where I'll go and I'll just look at the house, just get a good look at it. I'll bring comparables from the neighborhood or similar neighborhoods and, kind of get their idea of what they're wanting for it and just sit down with them, show them the numbers and, see what updates they've done and kind of take it from there.
What are some tricks of the trade, for lack of a better word? I know this is a random question, just that any advice that you might give a buyer or seller getting ready to buy or sell? Anything, just first level of advice other than maybe getting pre-approved for the loan?
Pre-approved is really a big thing. So that's really the very first step you need to do. On the selling side, it is really the pre-listing part of getting a realtor out there and taking a look at it and seeing what you need to do. Because if you're like for sale by owner and you don't really know what people are looking for. So I can go in a house and there may be some things that are wrong with it, and I know what appraisers and inspectors are looking for.
Right.
I'm not one.
Right.
I am not one.
Right.
But I've been flagged a lot of times on stuff, so I know what they may or may not call out.
Right. So, and that can even go into staging.
We can have staging, decluttering, if you need resources for painters, landscaping, everything. So
in your industry, you cross paths with a lot of industries.
A lot.
Yes. Severo, as a feature, you constantly are writing about different, everything you write about is different. You touch paths with so many cross sections of Rome and Northwest Georgia. How does that cross your desk or become of interest to you? How do you get your story ideas, your column ideas?
Well, I should make a distinction. So I write news stories and articles for the paper, and then I write my column.
Your column, right.
The column is on the editorial pages, which means it's opinion. So that has nothing to do. So if I was to do a story about your business, I would talk to an expert. I would talk to you. I would get quotes. I would do research for that story, and everything is factual.
Yeah, that sounds like work.
Whereas it is a lot of work, but it's important work. But for my columns, that's completely my opinion, and that could be ridiculous, sarcastic, and it's all my opinion. And a lot of people kind of get the two. We see a lot of this when we put my column will be on the Facebook page or on our website. And one of the first comments, somebody always comments, and it seems like her name's always Darlene. It says, "How is this news?" Well, it ain't news, Karen. That's exactly why it's called a column. Like, it's not. So I just want to make that distinction that there are articles I write and then my column. And my column is completely my opinion, and it's not based on fact. There's no research. It's just me being ridiculous. So there's a difference. So for my news stories,
is it the same Darlene or a different Darlene every time?
It's a different Darlene every time. Different Darlene every time. But, so a lot of times people will physically come into the paper and tell us, "Hey, I got this great story for y'all, my so-and-so or my business." And so that's where we kind of divide the different editors. We have a sports editor, we have a business editor, we have a features editor. We kind of divide. We say, where would this work best in the paper? Or can we even put this in the paper? There's some things that people come in and because it's super, and I always tell people this, just because it's super important to you does not mean that that's something that our readers would appreciate. Just because, your neighbor's dog keeps barking at 2:00 in the morning, that isn't necessarily front page news. It's super important to them and they want it dealt with, but that may not be something we put on the front page of the paper.
Right.
So we kind of decide where it goes in the paper, if it will go. And like I said, I might, people might email or call and they give us all these cool ideas, and I can't do everything, but some of the times I can, as soon as I hang up the phone with them, I go, "That's a really great idea. Let me jump on that." And I'll start making some calls, and who knows, that could be in the next day's paper, or that could be in a weekend paper. So,
what's interesting is because of your content, that's part of the business development for the paper. Your brand, your name, your columns, your opinion, your personality injected.
It's just that's all a part of the paper. But it's funny because of what I do and how I ask people questions and I think about stuff. When Nicole was talking, I wanted to ask her immediately so this is how I would come into it. Like, what's the oddest or strangest thing you've seen walking into a house for the first time that someone maybe was wanting to sell?
A great question. Go, Nicole.
Okay. So what have I walked in on?
It could be, let's say either a property or inside a home, and that made you go, "What why is this inside the
somebody
home?
like somebody had 100 pictures of clowns or something.
Right. I haven't encountered that. I think the most uncomfortable, it made me scream and probably cussed at that time was beep. Yes. I had walked in and the parents or clients, whatever, the sellers, they were outside. Well, they didn't bother to tell me that grown son was asleep in the bedroom.
Oh.
And I'm showing the house to my clients. And we're just going through there and we're just talking and, having us a good old time. And I open the door. I'm like, oh, shut that. He didn't move. He was gone. He was asleep. He wasn't waking back up.
Okay, surely you realize if you're going to show a house, you're going to show every room.
They didn't really bother to tell me that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They were okay. I guess they were okay with it. I don't know.
It wasn't strange to them, so they're like, he comes with the house.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Junior comes with the house. He just stays in the back bedroom. He won't. He won't bother you.
He didn't.
No, not at all.
He didn't move. I screamed and he didn't move.
I thought you said when you started to ask her about her house, what is your little hobby of yours is animals? And somebody put a little bird in my ear about squirrels.
No, I can't really. I know people with connections, but you have to be a licensed rescuer for that. So I don't do that. I just know people that do.
Okay.
But with my house, I do have the cats and dogs. We've got quail. We've got duck. I think there's a rabbit out there. And everything's got a weird name.
So you've named them.
And when I name my animal, it's got to have a great name and it's got to have a double name. Unless it's like my husband's not fun. So when he gets an animal, it's just his plain name.
It's just,
Spot. Like my little Pomeranian, his name's Duke Jackson III. Very fancy, which is there's never been
Rome
a first.
Fancy. That's Rome fancy.
There's never been a first. There's always
never
been
a first or second, but the flow.
I've had several animals named Chipper Jones. Just because I love Chipper Jones. So several of my animals, have been named Chipper Jones.
All of mine. It doesn't always flow. I've got one, her name's Dory Francis. Nothing flows with that. I think it's fun to come up with the worst names.
Dory Francis. She sounds like someone who goes to Hobby Lobby when they have a sale and she gets all her, what do you call it? The scrapbooking.
Yes.
Dory Francis does scrapbooking, I can tell.
Yeah, well, this Dory Francis, she's in the streets a lot, and
Severo, this sounds like a column to me. Unusual animal names.
Exactly, that's true. That is a good column. Thank you. That's a good column.
What's funny with that and I post a lot of that on social media with my my animals and their terrible names, and even the things they do because they're always doing something awful. And so a lot of times that'll relate with potential clients and stuff. They'll see it and it's a conversation starter.
Right.
And it's like, oh my gosh, I saw your dog did this, and that. And I'm just like, and then it starts from there. And then later on they'll call me about real estate stuff.
Yeah. Actually, in connecting in business, relationships are incredibly important.
Yes.
How do you, do you just use your personality? Because you're very outgoing.
My biggest thing is creating a relationship with somebody. And like with Jennifer, every house we would go,
Jennifer of the Rome News.
Yes.
Who's off in the corner without a microphone.
Back there, her. We would always have a good time. We were always laughing about something. And it's just making that connection with somebody. And they may be different from I am, but I'll figure out what their interests are and, kind of take it from there and make a relationship with them.
Right. Severo. You are a kind of a local celebrity. You pop up in charitable events. I have seen you dance at the
Rome Celebrity Dance Challenge
to raise money for the Sexual Assault Center. You have something else coming up, I believe. Have I read this right? A murder mystery.
Yes. So every year, they ask me to do the Floyd Against Drugs, which is a great local organization. They put on it's a fundraiser for them, and it's a murder mystery dinner. So they asked like a few kind of well-known local people, including, city commissioners, people in business, just people who are kind of well-known, and me, and then they ask us to be a part of the cast. So what happens is there's a director, and so the regular guests that come in, they pay for dinner, That's the fundraising, is that they pay to have dinner, and that dinner comes with entertainment, which is a murder mystery event that happens during the dinner.
And these celebrities are the cast.
Yes, so we're the cast members, and we have to wear costumes according to the theme. This year's theme is a superhero reunion to die for.
Retired superheroes.
Yes, so we are so our costumes and our characters are washed up superheroes, and what happens is we interact with people during the night. The guests will sort of be at our reunion, and so they're a part of the night too. They're a part of the whole show, and we interact with them. We give them clues. We talk about our relationships, and then at the end of the night, someone dies. One of us. We don't know who it is. We never know until the last second who it is. Someone dies, and because of the clues and the interactions we've had throughout the night, the guests have to figure out who is the killer. And it's just a really, really fun event, and it's gotten to be really popular. They've asked me every year, and I think this is like my 4th or 5th year doing it, and it's always so much fun because people really get into it, and even our guests who aren't characters, but they'll come dressed up in that theme because they're encouraged to, and we just have a really good time, and it's so much fun, and it's going to be on March 19th this year at the Forum River Center. So tickets are $40, and they're running out, and they always sell out. So
how would they get tickets online?
Yes, go to Eventbrite and just type in Floyd Against Drugs, and then that should bring up the murder mystery. And it's just a really, really great event for a good cause. All the money goes to Floyd Against Drugs. So
just a couple of quick follow-ups here. So it's loosely scripted because y'all have to advance the story and drop clues with the audience.
So how it works is the director literally we have like different little timed segments of the evening. The guests don't see this, but the cast sees this, where he gives us literally a tiny little strip of paper, and it'll say, so let's say my character is John, and Nicole's character is, Susan. It'll say, let everybody know that John and Susan had a torrid love affair back in the 80s, but it went wrong when, Susan cheated with the butler. So for the next few minutes, yes, that hussy. So what happens is, for the next few minutes, Susan and I will, either together or separately, Nicole's character will walk around the room, we'll move around the room, kind of dropping that hint to people. I'll say, you see that girl over there in the red dress? Her name's Susan. Well, me and her had a blah, blah, blah back in the 80s, but she turned around and she cheated on me with my best friend, and we talk about it. We let people know. So in the back of their minds, and sometimes on paper, people are taking these notes, but that stuff is going on all night with different characters. So while that may seem like a good reason for me and you to be on the outs, there could be another clue circulating that has nothing to do with me. So when you turn up dead later that night, they have to decide, is it because you broke my heart back in 1989? Or is it because you ran over that lady's cat, with your car? So again, it's all these storylines are going on with the cast and with the guests all night, and so we don't even know who the killer is.
Well,
so
the fact that the audience is so engaged in the process.
Yes, so the people who buy tickets are the people who have been coming for years, and they know how it works, and so they get dolled up, they get dressed up just like they look like the characters do, and it's so great to see everybody sitting at these big tables, and so you're interacting with people all over Rome. You're law enforcement, the business community, real estate, like all these people are there, and it's a really fun night, and it's great for networking, right. And of course it's a fundraiser.
What retired superhero will you be? Do you know yet?
Yes, I can't. I think it's Hot Flash or something with heat. Like So my superpower back in the day was that I could, I got really hot. And at first I thought they did it because I was physically hot, but apparently that's not what it was, and nobody thinks that. So, but then one of the other characters, I think, her name is like the Ice Queen, and she was the one that I had a love affair with back in the day, but it went awry because she went with another guy, and so that's a part of it too, and it's just a lot. It's a lot of fun.
And that's March 19th.
March 19th at the Forum River Center.
And it's a fundraiser for Floyd
Against Drugs.
Floyd Against Drugs. So, Nicole, what superhero would you be?
Ooh. Oh, good question. Looking at me, what kind of superhero would I be?
Gosh.
Okay. Wonder Woman.
I
Wonder Woman.
think
that would be too flattering.
so this is, I'm going to put your super power within the realm of what you do.
Okay.
So you are realtor girl, and you go around, you fly around. No, it is. Trust me. Come, we need this. We need practical superheroes. So you fly around from property to property, getting people to clean up their
Beep.
Yes, because you need to sell this. People need to sell this property, and nobody wants to see your German Shepherd tied up on a chain outside.
Trying to bite you
on a
as you're coming
exactly.
in.
So her superpower is to make Rome look good.
Yes, and get that dang yard art. Get the dang get the 14 flamingos and 18 gnomes, garden gnomes out the front yard. Nobody wants to see that.
Can I have some kind of zap thing where I could just point my finger and it just makes it all disappear?
Yes, you
Could
can.
that be a power?
But it also punishes the homeowner because they need to learn. That's the only way they learn. They won't learn if you just
too.
yes, you zap them.
So she's basically going after the people that are opposite of Rome fancy.
Well, not just because you don't have to be Rome fancy to have a nice looking property.
That's true.
Here, listen. Okay, I probably shouldn't say this because it might get out. But so whatever I say in this room stays here. All right. This cannot go. This cannot go past room. I have a hoarder neighbor, and I'm not going to say who it is or where they live. But so I try to keep my yard.
Well, we know they live in Celanese.
Stop! You can't.
Stop.
Yes, and then I swear it seems like this person has collected every piece of farm equipment and has left it in their backyard in Celanese. And let me tell you, the backyard in Celanese is the size of this table that we're sitting at. We're sitting at a table where about 9 or 8 people could sit comfortably. And that's the size of a backyard at Celanese. And this person has every piece of metal equipment you have ever found in Floyd County in the back of his yard. And I have to see that every single day.
Do you have a privacy fence up?
No, there's not a privacy fence. And I need to put one up. But I shouldn't have to
fancy.
put up. Well, I shouldn't have to put up a privacy fence. Just clean up your.
That is true.
SHIT. Just clean it up.
Maybe Nicole can put you in a new house somewhere else in town.
No, I love my house. That's the thing.
Celanese is such a cute.
It is. It's a great neighborhood. I love my house and I love my neighbors. And those people are very nice. They just have been living there for 168 years, and they have everything that they're just yard hoarders. Is what they are. I wish I could get them.
There's no telling what the inside looks like.
I don't even want to know. But I'm not like they're wonderful people. I love them to death. They're salt of the earth. Just clean up your yard, please, because I don't need rats coming over from your yard into my yard.
And they will.
There's an obscure Elvis Presley song. I'm an Elvis Presley buff. Obscure Elvis Presley song, "Clean Up Your Own Backyard." It wasn't a hit, but
was it? Well, was it? Obviously, if it was Elvis and it was a songwriter, there was probably a meaning behind it. What does it mean?
It was about relationships.
Not the neighbor.
It was a metaphor on,
like does it mean
practice,
your past,
practice
or does it mean your
practice what you preach?
Oh, practice what you preach. Kinda. I like that. Don't be a dang hypocrite.
Ooh.
Clean up your own backyard.
That Elvis,
he was the king. So I digress. But let's circle back around to business here. I had a couple of more questions I wanted to ask Nicole about just the real estate thing. So at personally or at your business there at Legacy, what sets y'all apart? What makes you different?
Our relationships that we make with our clients, they know that we have their back. Our job is to protect them, and there's never a doubt in it. And I can't promise that everything's going to be rainbows and sunshine. I can't. But when anything,
in Georgia, it hasn't been that for a month
no,
and
it
a half.
hasn't. I'd love to see some rainbows and sunshine.
But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
but
you're fine.
Relationships.
But that's the thing, and we're honest. That's our thing. I'm going to break this to you. It may not be what you want to hear, but this is what's going on, and this is what you need to know. But our clients, they always know that we're giving it 110%.
As a small business in Rome, you said 5 or 6 employees there. Just talk about the Rome business community. As you guys have gotten started here over the last couple of years, just Rome in general, because the point of Business Radio here is to let people share their stories and celebrate the successes in Rome and Northwest Georgia. How have you been received as you've gotten your business going?
Actually, good.
Yeah.
It was where everybody's nervous. Anytime you break out and you do something new, you're going to be nervous about it. You don't know what's going to happen. You think the worst. But once we opened our new office, we got everything established, and it works. It was great. Everybody was accepting of us, and we have lots of friends, even at other offices. We make relationships with everybody, and we love being close to town too. I'm like 2 minutes away. And 2 blocks from the liquor store.
Lord Jesus, I heard you. That's the most important thing.
Right on the other side of the railroad tracks, but I can walk there.
That's what real estate agents need to plug. I mean, curb appeal is great.
Yes.
Schools, blah, blah, blah.
But,
church, whatever. But tell me where the nearest liquor store is.
Location.
Right, location is everything. And that's why they'll come to the office. I'm like, all right, you got the liquor store? about 2 blocks behind the liquor store over the railroad tracks.
Well,
The ugly greenhouse.
Can I walk there? That's the
you
most
can walk
important
there.
thing.
I have walked there. You can walk there.
I lost control. We wanted to remain family friendly, but how do you, especially with a relatively young business and relationships, how do you guys market yourselves? I mean, with the newspaper or
we will
word of mouth?
When we do ads in the newspaper as well, right. But our biggest thing is social media. So when there's new listing for marketing, like I am just posting it on Facebook, but I'm also paying when I put it on Facebook too. So I want to reach as many people as I can when it comes to the listing, and I mean buyers too. I'm making posts of how I can help you and how I've helped these other people, and just trying to get more from that. So social media is a big thing, and just being involved with the community. Just, even just walking up and down the streets, just seeing people, being in front of their face.
And Rome is a good community for that. And it's obviously in real estate, it's really important. Those connections, those interactions, those relationships, super important for your business, but also for other people. So, I love when I see when they have all these, events in Rome. They could be business, centric events, or they could just anything. I love to see all these different people from different, businesses and just different arenas just kind of get together, shaking hands, schmoozing, having a drink, talking. It's building those relationships. Because who knows, 2 of those people that you met a week ago at that event, they could be calling up, I know this great girl. Her name's Nicole.
Right. Y'all
she
just
had
met.
a wonderful,
Right.
yes.
And
we've hit it off.
We have hit it off.
We have.
Yes. We're going to go grab a drink later.
How can people reach you? What's your website or phone number, or how would you like people to contact?
Website, homeisrome.com.
One more time.
Homeisrome.com.
Gotcha.
And my phone number is 706-844-4018.
Those real estate agents, they put out their phone number. It's like,
I'm not giving out my number.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. And I do, because that's my work.
That's your business. That's how you do it.
Yes. So, but I do. I'm spitting that out everywhere. But and our one thing is making ourselves available. So anytime my phone rings, I'm getting it. Or if I'm not getting it, if I'm here right now, like it's already rang, I'll get them as soon as I'm finished. So communication's a huge thing.
So, and Severo, I know you were joking, but you're certainly not going to, because when you put something in print in the paper, the last thing you want is everybody who reads it to call you.
Well, exactly. But I will say that we at the Rome News Tribune, we welcome feedback from readers.
Sure.
And that doesn't just mean compliments. And we do appreciate the comments, but we also appreciate constructive criticism. Tell us when there's things that we can do better, whether it's my writing personally or it's other things in the paper. Our email address is, and it's pretty simple. It's Rome News Tribune, all one word, at rn-t.com. And we want to know if you think that something I wrote, if you think that has no place in the paper, say that. We want to know what readers think. So if you think Severo's a big idiot, get him off the page. They might listen to you.
Well, but understanding there's a difference between when you write a news story and when you write a column.
A column,
and
exactly.
Columns on the editorial page.
Yes, and that's always on Tuesday on the editorial page is my column, and that's just my opinion. And then throughout the week, usually on Thursdays and Sundays, that's when my articles run. So, but again, we love that feedback. Come into the paper, tell us what you think. Talk to the editor, call us up. I mean, we definitely encourage reader feedback.
Well, and check out his column, folks. It's if you haven't yet. I mean, I mentioned he's a little bit of a local celebrity, but it's entertaining. It's a fun read, especially this Rome fancy stuff. So
all my columns are on our website, which is rn-t.com, and you can just search my name or just go to opinion and columns, and you'll see, you can look at my columns there. And of course we post those all on Facebook.
And it's an eclectic mix of things, just because in the features world, I mean, you cross paths with anything.
Yeah. And it's just observations of local life. So there's not a lot of big national politics or stuff like that. The opinion pages are always filled with these heavy political, pieces. And my stuff is just really lighthearted. It's just meant to entertain.
Fun.
Yes.
To break away from all of that.
Exactly. So that's why I think people appreciate it, because I write about my life, I write about my neighbors, I write about my family, and I have people come up to me and they'll say,
you talk about your neighbors too.
Yes. So people will come up to me and they'll say, hey, I know so-and-so. And, so I feel like people kind of relate, because everybody has that crazy family member. Everybody has that annoying neighbor. Everybody has, that sister who's a little bit crazy. So and I write about those things.
Everybody has that annoying podcast guest. Oh, sorry.
Guilty as charged.
But was I looking at him when I said that?
I mean, it's okay. It's okay.
No, it's been great. Any final thoughts, Nicole, other than people can reach out to you at homeisrome.com to buy or sell their house?
Yes, anything. And I'm also on social media too. A lot more people reach out to me on Facebook and Instagram than they do anything. So I'm always available for messages and stuff on there too.
And that's Legacy Properties and Severo Avila. Anything coming up other than the reminder of March 19th? Anything else?
Well, actually, just because of this podcast, maybe next week's column, I might follow up on that funny pet names in Rome. And so if anybody wants to send me their like funny names of actual pets, don't just make up a name, but actual pets, I might turn that into a little column, and we might see what's out there, what's in Rome.
Full of names.
Exactly.
I don't know that it's funny, but my dog that I had from age 5 to 21 that I grew up with, we named Frisky, and I didn't have any siblings. I didn't have any brothers. I had 4 sisters. So Frisky was my brother growing up. So I don't know that Frisky's a funny name, but he's my brother, and I miss him.
The editor of the Rome News Tribune, his name is John. His little boys were responsible for naming one of their dogs, and so her name's Popcorn. And that's just
there's a column
come
there.
Up, yeah, for sure. So I appreciate just being on here. I appreciate that column idea.
Well, and Chipper Jones, obviously, you big Braves fan.
Yes, huge Braves fan.
So there's probably lots of dogs or cats named after athletes or celebrities. So
yes.
I'm interested for people to email the Rome News email address that you gave to give the ideas.
Exactly. We'll be doing a call out on Facebook. So
all right. Well, great. Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks,
Severo.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, this has been great. You've been listening to Rome Business Radio. I'm Roger Manus. We will talk to you next time.